Hey yo, what is up? New year, new tank. Today we are going to preview the new tier 8 premium tank in the test server right now. This is the British tier 8 heavy tank called the Charlemagne. Yes, say it with me, Charlemagne. Yes, it's British. Leave it to the British to make it difficult for us. Since 1842, this is not the Charlemagne, this is the Charlemagne. Say it with me, Charlemagne, tier 8 British premium tank, heavy tank. We are going to compare it with two of the best heavy tanks in tier 8 right now. The first adversary is going to be the tier 8 that's on the tech tree, which is the Caernavon. The tier 8, which is the most popular tier 8 tank in the tech tree. And then we're going to go head to head with the tier 8 premium, most popular premium heavy tank, which is the Polish 50 TP. So let's compare it with the Caernavon right now. First of all, they're both heavy tanks, but they're both very different. That's because in the Charlemagne, you get a 440 alpha gun compared to the Caernavon's 280 alpha gun. 440 alpha gun, of course, it's gonna hit like a defender, or it's gonna hit like a 50 TP. But we'll talk about the 50 TP later. Let's compare it with the Caernavon. It is 100 HP hit points less than the Caernavon. In terms of speed, 25 kilometers an hour going forward, much slower than the Caernavon, 34 kilometers an hour going forward. Also, the horsepower 750 versus 810 on the Caernavon. Now, the Caernavon is not like a super fast tank to begin with, but what you get from the Charlemagne is what seems to be like a slower tank, but it has a much bigger horsepower per ton compared to the Caernavon. The Caernavon, of course, 13.12 horsepower per ton versus the Charlemagne is slated to be 16.67 horsepower per ton. It looks like it's going to be a lot faster. No, it's not. That's because the speed is limited to 25 kilometers an hour, and by the way, 16.67 horsepower per ton doesn't mean jack shit. It's still gonna be slow as fuck compared to the Caernavon. It's going to be around the same kind of mobility, in my opinion anyway, but we'll see when we get to test it out. Hull armor 130, slightly better than the Caernavon of 120. Turret armor a lot worse than the Caernavon. Caernavon, of course, very famous for having a very strong frontal turret armor, 254 millimeters, very difficult to penetrate that. The reload time 15.34 seconds. This is what is the downside of this tank. This tank, in my opinion, 15.34 is too long. It's going to take forever to reload. Even for 440 alpha, it is not going to be worth it at all. 440 alpha doesn't mean shit if you're going to reload 15.34 seconds. The Caernavon can reload twice and shoot you for that amount of time that you reload. 10 degrees of gun depression, very similar to the Caernavon, good for hull down. Shell velocity, I think the first number there for the AP shell is wrong, 597 meters per second. It can't be right, but that is what is printed right now. I doubt it is correct. That is the AP shell. For the premium shell, it's going to be heat shells, 924 meters per second. That looks more accurate and more realistic, and I think that is correct. Aim time 3.36 seconds. That is not good at all. Not good at all. They definitely have to buff this. Dispersion 0.42, really pale in comparison to the Caernavon, which is 0.33. Caernavon is going to do a lot better in terms of accuracy and probably moving dispersions as well. Caernavon 0.15. The moving dispersion for the Charlemagne is not available at the moment, but we will see what happens when it is going to be tested fully and more information is going to be released. Now, they actually kind of nerfed it before this tank was released to the test server. It was slated to be 810 horsepower per ton, horsepowers, but they cut it down to 750. Also, the horsepower per ton or power to weight ratio was supposed to be 18 horsepower per ton, but then they dropped it down to 16.67. Top speed as well, it was supposed to be 42 kilometers an hour, then they cut it down to 35 kilometers an hour. I don't know why, but here we go. We're going to compare it head to head with the 50 TP, the tank that has similar damage, 440 alpha gun, but the difference here is like a lot. Look at the speed. 50 TP, 35 kilometers an hour going forward. Horsepower per ton slightly less than the Charlemagne, but the mobility, 27.12 hull traverse speed, while the 50 TP has 39.63 hull traverse speed, which means in terms of mobility, it looks like the 50 TP is going to be slightly better. And then look at that turret armor, 210 on the 50 TP versus the Charlemagne, which is only 170. Are you kidding me? Reload time on the 50 TP, 13.661, which means when you have food, BIA, all the good shit you got to reduce your reload, you can get it down to about 10 seconds. It's going to perform a lot better than the Charlemagne. Now, what is the Charlemagne got good going for it? It looks fantastic, doesn't it? I love the way the hull looks. I love the way the turret looks. The looks of this tank is absolutely amazing. I really want this tank just because of the way it looks. But in terms of performance, it looks like the 50 TP is going to do a lot better all across the board. Even with aim time, 2.88 seconds is a lot better than 3.36 seconds. Dispersion 0.38 means you can bring it down to 0.34 dispersion versus the Charlemagne, which I think the best dispersion you can get out of the Charlemagne gun is 0.38 after you've run food. After you run BIA, improved aim, 0.36, 0.38, that's the best you can do with the Charlemagne. The 50 TP is going to beat the crap out of the Charlemagne, hands down. I really hope that they buff the Charlemagne up a little bit before they decide to release this out into the public. That's because the Charlemagne is not going to be it's not going to be the number one choice in terms of premium heavy tanks. The 50 TP is going to be a lot better choice in terms of single shot, traditional heavy tank role. In terms of premium tanks, I feel the 50 TP is going to be a lot better. Even the Charlemagne in its current configuration, it is not better than the Caernavon stock Tech 3 heavy tank in tier 8. So for what reason would you want a Charlemagne if you already have, let's say, a Caernavon Action X? Why would you want this tank? You want this tank for the 440 alpha, but the way they have handicapped and set up this tank with the 0.42 dispersion and the really sluggish mobility, which I am looking at, it seems that way on paper. I don't think it's going to be a very competitive tank. If you want a heavy tank, you're definitely going to go for the 50 TP, which is right now one of the most popular, the most favorite tank, heavy tanks, single shot heavy tanks out there. And I think when if they do release the Charlemagne without any kind of buffs, if they decide to release it with these stats, I'm afraid the 50 TP is just going to outshine the Charlemagne hands down. I hope you've taken some information out of this preview. Please leave a comment. What do you think about this tank? Are you looking forward to this tank? I must admit, it looks amazing. I like the way it looks. I like the turret. I like the hull. I just hope they make it perform slightly better. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.